Hi everyone. In the last video we have covered list in detail. We have discussed about list methods, list slicing, list comprehension. Now in this video we are going to discuss about tuples. What are the tuples in Python? Everything about tuples, like how to create a tuples, how to assess the tuples, how we can do slicing in tuples, and a lot more about tuples. So without doing further delay, let's get into this. So guys, as you can see that I'm in PyCharm, and here I have already created a file l9.py. So let's write here lecture 9 and comment this one. Now guys, let's first of all understand what is tuple. Tuple. Tuple is also a built-in data type in Python. It used to store a number of data. Inside of this tuple, you can store a multiple type of variable at a time. It is not mandatory you to store the same type of variable in a tuple. You can store string, you can store float, you can store numerical data type in same tuples. But this tuple is immutable. Let me write here. It is immutable. Immutable means once you create the tuple, you can't change the data, you can't remove the data, you can't append the data, you can't modify the data. So that is a tuple. So let's understand first of all how to create the tuple. Create a tuple. And let me comment this one also. Now guys, first of all let's see how to create an empty tuple. So for that I'm going to write a tuple which is variable name, and here I can use a tuple constructor. Now guys, this tuple constructor will going to initialize a tuple to our tuple variable. Now if I print my tuple and if I run this code, you can see that I got an empty tuple. Tuple is basically use a parenthesis and list use a square bracket. Alright. So now let's see how to create a tuple with a value. So let's write a variable name tuple, and here I am going to use a parenthesis, and inside of parenthesis I will give my data. I will say that code wrapped and one more data which is, let's say here integer 45. So now this is our tuple because I have used here parenthesis outside of this old data. Now if I print this, you can, let me comment this one. Now let's run this code. You can see that my data is in tuple, it is in parenthesis. I hope this much clear to you. Now let's see create a tuple with single data. Here you may get surprised that how does it happening. So if I create here tuple, and here if I give data only code wrapped, let me comment this one. Now if I print that, print tuple. Now guys, you can see that code wrapped, I got code wrapped answer. I didn't get any parenthesis as well. And if I show you the type of this tuple variable, and let me write a type. So let's see, I go type string. It's saying that this is a string, not a tuple. What does it mean? Remember guys, if you want to store single data and you want to initialize with a tuple, so you have always give a comma at last. This means it is telling to interpreter that this is my tuple, not a single data. So now if I run this code, you can see that I got my output tuple. This is a tuple now. So if you want to store a single data in, and you want to create that tuple, then you have to give at last comma, which helps Python to understand that what is a tuple and what is a data. So now I hope you understood that how to create an empty tuple, how to create a tuple with a single data, and how to create a tuple with a multiple data. So you don't need to put comma if you want to create a tuple with more than 2 data. So now let's understand, let's comment this first, and let's understand how to access the data from tuple. Access data from tuple. So now guys, let's say again I have a tuple this which is storing some values 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. Here we will see with a positive index as well as negative index. So let's first see with the positive index. So I have a tuple and I want to print this 30 data. So how can I do that? We know that this is a second index 0, 1 and 2. So this is a second index. So let me write it up, and here I will give my 2, which means I am telling to the interpreter that print me a second index of tuple. Let's run this code and let's see our output. You can see that I got 30, and if I use a negative index, And you guys know that negative index always start from n and it start from -1. So 50 is -1, 40 is at -2 and 30 at -3. So if I do same thing, print tab -3, and if I run this code, and you guys can see that I got same output with negative index as well. So I hope now you understood that how to assess the tuple elements with a positive index as well as negative index. But wait guys, if you don't know index but you want to know that where is my data present, means like you know what is the data but you don't know where is that present, so you can use a function index, print tuple dot index, and inside of that I will give my data. I will say that tell me where is 30 present. So if I run this code, and you guys can see that it's giving me 2, it's telling us at second index your 30 data is present. So now I hope you understood that what is tuple and how to assess the data from a tuple. So let's comment this one and let's see some more things about tuple. Let's see slicing in tuple. Now guys, let's say again I am copying this tuple, and if I write here, now guys, here I want to assess all the data after 1 index up to 3 index. So I can use a slicing. I can say that print inside of that tuple variable, which is our tuple. So inside of that square bracket I can use here start index. I'll say here 1 from where I want data, that means 1 means at first index I want, up to where I want to get data till this third index. So if you want to get data till third index, that means you have to give a +1 value. 3 plus 1 means 4. If I do this and if I run this code, you can see that I got 20, 30, 40, which means it goes from 1 index to 4 minus 1, which means 3. So it goes 1, 2, 3. Some fact about slicing, print tuple. If you don't give before colon, that means it's gonna assume 0 by default. And if you don't give after before, that means it's going to consider whole the length of tuple. If I run this code, you can see that the second time I will get all the output of tuples. Let's run this code, and you guys can see that I get whole the tuples. If I write here 1, that means I will get whole the tuples after 1 index. If I run this code, wait, if I don't write here something which means 0, and if I write here 4, it means it prints the value from 0 to 4 minus 1, 3, which means till 40. Let's run this code, and you guys can see that 10, 20, 30, 40. So this is basic about tuples, and you can also give step size, which is basically by default. If I write here 1, that means it's going to tell us okay, you have to take 1 step size every time. It will give us same output. You can see that I got 10, 20, 30. But if I give here 2, that means you have to take 2 steps at a time. It will first print 10 because it's starting from 0 by default. Then it will not going to print 20 because I have given 2 step size, so it will going to print 30 instead of 20. It take 2 steps, one 10 and second 20, and after that it will not going to print 40, it will print 50, but it will not going to print 50 also because we have given the end size 4. I hope you understood that first it will print 10, then 30, and then it will not going to print anything because we are out of bound. So let's run this code. You can see that we got 10 and 30 only. So this is basically step size. It's gonna to tell us how many steps you have to take every time. So let's comment this one. I hope you understood what is slicing in tuples. If you are not getting anything, you can write in the comment section. I will always try to help you. Now guys, if you have created this tuple, let me copy this one. Now guys, if you have this tuple and you want that how much data in this tuple we have, so for getting that you have a length function, this function which basically take a variable means tuple. So if I say here length of tuple, that means it's going to print us this length, and if I say print me that length of tuple, and if I run this code, it would tell us 5. There are 5 data present in this tuple. So I hope now you understood how to find the length of tuple if you don't know. So let's comment this one and see something more. I'm going to tell you here packing and unpacking in a tuple. Packing and unpacking in tuple. Guys, let's say you have tuple and which is taking 3 types. One is an even number, second is an odd number, and third is a prime number. So if you want to get all these into different variable, now if you want to unpack this tuple, then how you can do that? Let me show you how. Let's say you want that even should goes in my even variable, odd should goes in my odd variable, and prime data should goes in my prime variable. One way you can do that, you can write a tuple of 0, which basically means it will give you by indexing. If I show you print even, odd, and prime, if I run this code, you guys can see that even is having 4 and odd is having 9 and prime is having 11. But you can do it unpacking and packing method. So if I have this data and if I want to get into 3 variables, so I can say that even, odd, and prime is equal to tuple. What it will do, it will put this tuple instead of this tuple variable. Let me put here to make you understand. Let's comment this one. And what it will do, it will say that okay, even is going to store this value, odd is going to be stored this value 9, and prime is going to be stored 11 value. So if I run this code now, it will give a same output. You can see the 4, 9, 11. And you can use a comma in print statement to use a different variable. So I hope now this much is clear to you. You can use unpacking method for getting a data. Now let's see how to do packing. I have told you first unpacking, so let me write unpacking, and after that I'm writing a packing. So okay, now let's see how to pack the data. Let me comment all these things. Guys, if you have 3 data, let's say you have code wrapped, and one is 45 which is integer and another is float. Alright, so you have 3 data, but you want to store that data into a tuple. You want to pack it. So how you can do that? You can write here tuple, and here I am writing just tuple. I am comfortable with tuple variables. So if I do this, this tuple variable will store all this data, assuming that these all are tuple because these are separated by comma, and this is not having any square bracket or tuple. It gonna assume by default that these are having a this parenthesis. That means by default it gonna say that yeah, these are the values which I have to store in tuples. So if I delete this one parenthesis also, it will assume that they are parentheses. And if I show you print tuple and type of this tuple, and if I run this code, you can see that we got output code rep 45, 5, 43, and 34, which is in tuple, and the type is also saying that it is a class of tuple. So great, this much is clear how to unpack that and pack that. Unpacking and packing. Great. Now let's move to some more methods. So now let's see how to use a for loop in tuple. So for using a for loops, how we can do that? The first way is using a value. Using value. And here I'm writing for loop in tuple. So using a value, which basically I'm saying that you have to iterate over the values, not over the index. So if I use a for our data, basically here you can give any variable which will iterate over the tuples data in tuple and print me that data. If I comment this 2 line, and I'm assuming my tuple is having this 3 data because we have so far initialized this. Okay, it's better to initialize another one. Let's say I'm having tuple now 10, 20, 30, 40, and one more 50. Let's comment this one also now. If I want to print all those elements, so now I have already told you that this data will going to be iterated over this tuple. It will first of all add 10, then it will 20, then 30, then 40, then 50, so on. So if I run this code, you can see that I will get my output as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It has iterated over all the tuples. This is the one way to print the data. And let's comment and see second way, using indexes. Now guys, using indexes means you have to print the data using index value. So let me copy this tuple again, and here I am saying that for index I usually take I for I in range of length of tuple, which we have seen that this length function going to be returns length, and here we know that length is 5. So let me put here column first, and here I am telling you give us a range of 0 to 5, 0 to 5, which means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It will not going to consider 5 because range function always take the value till end minus 1. Here start is by default 0 if we write or don't write, and length means 5, so it will gonna print 0 to 4. So now let's print that tuples value. Print tup inside of this square bracket. I'm going to give a I, which basically will iterate over this list now, and in this 0 index we have our data 10, in 1 index we have data 20, in second index we have data 30, and so on. It will print all the value. So let's run this code now, and you guys can see that we got same output again, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this is basically iterating over the indexes and print the value of tuples using indexes. So let's comment this one also now. Let's see some more new things about tuples, which is concatenate tuples. Here I am taking two tuples. Let me take a tuple 1, which is storing an even number 2, 4, 6, 8, and let me take another tuple which is storing an odd number 1, 3, 5, 7. So now guys, I want to make a new tuple by adding both these tuples. Means it should store now 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 3, 5, 7. How can I do that? You can concatenate these two tuples using two ways. The first way is using plus operator. So if I say that tuple 3, which is tup1 plus tup2, if I say print me tup3, and if I run this code, you can see that I got same output 2, 4, 6, 8. This is first tuple, and after that 1, 3, 5, 7. So this is basically using plus operator we can do. There is another way to do, which is sum method. Now as I can see that tup3 is sum of tup1, tup2, and inside of that an empty tuple. So if I run this code, print tup3, and if I comment this 2, and if I run this now, I will get same output. You can do this thing also. And how does it happen? So guys, if you are adding two tuples in the sum variable, then you have to give a single empty tuple as well in another argument. Alright, so I believe now you understood how to concatenate two tuples using plus operator using sum method. So let's comment this one, and let's see one more thing if we have. Now guys, at last let's see a nested tuple. Nested tuple. Let me comment this one also now. So guys, let me create first of all three tuples. I'm going to create here one tuple is tup1, which is storing 10, 20, and 30, and another tuple which will store 40, 50, and 60, and one more tuple which will store 70, 80, and 90. Great. Now let's create one nested tuple. I will give the name of that tuple is tup, and I will say that inside of that tuple use this value. First let me show you by the data. Here I'm going to put this one, and here I'm going to put this one. You can do this as well. Inside of tuple you are having these tuples, and other way is you can write here if tuple 1, tuple 2, and tuple 3. So now what is taking all the data inside of these tuples. Now you have this tuple inside of tuples. So it is basically called nested tuples. When you have tuple inside of tuples, so that is become nested tuples. Now how to print that data? Let's print that data. I'm going to use a for loop using a value node by the index. It is quite easy. For I'm saying that for data in my tuple, which is having a storing a tuple inside of tuples, so what is going to do, it will iterate over this tuple. Now this data will iterate first of all at this tuple, in this tuple. So this tuple also have this three data in tuple. So I'm going to say that for inside data in data, basically I'm saying that first of all this data will iterate over this tuple 1, and in this tuple 1 is stored now in our data. And if tuple 1 is in data, then I'm saying that if for inside data means this is a variable, you can give here I also. Let me give it I. For I in data, which is now this data, and now I will iterate this tuple. And now let me show you within comments. So now my data will have 10, 20, 30, and here my tup is having these three data. So let me write here comment Now first of all, this data will iterate over this tuple1, and in this tuple1 my I will iterate over this data because data is our tuple1 and tuple1 is having this data. So now I will iterate over this data and I am saying that print me that I value. If I do that, so it will gonna print me this 10, 20 and 30. After that I will print an empty line which basically tell us that yeah, you have print one variable. Now the new line will tell us that you are going to print a second tuple. So let's run first of all this code and then we will understand deep how does it work. Let me make it size bigger. You can see that I got first 10, 20, 30, then 40, 50, 60, then 70, 80, 90. Now guys, to make you understand, I am going to comment this thing and I am going to print my data only. If I run this code and if I comment this one, you can see that I got my all the data in tuple only. Now what I did earlier was I iterate over this also and I just told you how to get all the element of this tuple. So that's basically you can use a nested loop for printing a nested data in the tuple. I hope this much is clear to you. If you still have any kind of doubt, you can ask in the comment sections. I will definitely there to reach you. And guys, in this video, this is all I want to tell you. If you like this video, definitely give a thumbs up to this video and subscribe my channel. Meet you in the next video. Thank you.